deep in the heart of Texas.
We're in the business of winning.
Don't bet against me.
I don't bet anyway.
Don't lose your life.
All right. Try and keep this 30 minutes or less. Obviously, a lot of pain right now. People have been reaching out to me. I am okay. I am alive. In NB Sports did not kill himself, as the kids like to say. A lot of pain, though. Obviously, this sucks. Definitely did not see it playing out like this. I don't think a lot of people did. Even though the Boston was favorite. They were a pretty large favorite, considering how close most people thought it was going to be. Which is kind of interesting, right? That Vegas must have knew what was up, right? With or without Porzingis. So a lot of pain. This sucks, obviously. And I'll just give a quick summary, right? The Mavs have been total deer in the headlights. I am as a deer in the headlights as much as they have been, right? Like, I kind of just came home and made this video. And I'm speechless, right? I really have nothing to say other than Boston has just been the better team, right? They just have. And so I made that video before the finals, and I was completely wrong about KP. It was a genius move to not start him and bring him off the bench in game one. I thought it was more likely he might struggle a game or two for those first two ones with a little bit of rust and coming off the injury. I thought maybe the Mavs, a possession or two go the Mavs' way, and maybe we get a game or two. I was hoping for a game, right, at Boston. But it came out, it's absolutely smacked us in the face, right? So totally wrong about that. I thought the matchups on the perimeter, while I thought Dallas would have their hands full, and I didn't think it was an advantage, I thought the matchups on the perimeter would be a little more even, but Boston just absolutely destroyed us on the perimeter, right, with the wing play and guard play. And what I was right about was some of the things I was worried about that I said in that video. I thought Boston would try to let Luka and Kyrie eat and go off, and if they're going to have to score 30 plus each for them to have a shot at winning, essentially, if they did that, and that's what they've done. And I thought they were going to stay home on everyone else, no threes from anyone else getting hot, and no alley-oops, right? Also, no offensive rebounds. That's a good part of staying home on your man, is hopefully you have inside position on rebounding and you don't give up a lot of second chance opportunities. And I thought that's what would happen, right? So they would play one-on-one with Kyrie and Luka, and that they would have to completely exploit that for the Mavs to have a chance. And I felt decent about that, right? If some other guys can just make a play or two here, that's not asking for much. If they do their part, if our stars do their part. And look, Jones, PJ, Lively, Gafford, I'm not going to say they've been non-existent. Definitely Jones has been non-existent for the most part, followed by Gafford, and then PJ and Lively have had good splashes and spots here and there. But what I was worried about they would do, they've absolutely just played one-on-one, no double, which we thought they would do. I was right about that. And, they haven't let the Mavs get their corner three off. The Mavs are big in corner threes. I think they lead the league. That was one strategy they did. Again, that has to go with staying home on your man, right? You get corner threes by cheating, doubling, things like that. Bad rotations on pick and rolls or something of that nature, right? Collapsing on the defense, you don't get back out fast enough. So they've taken away the corner three, and I thought if PJ and Derek, because again, everyone's going to have to produce or have spots, right? And I said, for us to have a real chance, PJ or Derek, every so often, one of them is going to have to go off for 20 points, and or they're going to have to chip in 10 to 12 points apiece, right? In other words, hitting some big threes here and there, getting some second chance opportunities, right? And for them to do that, I thought they would have to shoot threes at a high clip. And they are good at hitting open threes, right, at times, but they are not they are not like good get your own shot volume 3-point shooters, right? And so I was a little worried about that. I thought they somehow, some way, other people are going to have to step up. And Lively and Gafford get a lot of their points from Luka and Kyrie and others driving, right? So I thought the odds were that Jones and PJ would have to hit some outside threes, as well as everyone else, right? But mainly them as our starters. So that hasn't happened, right? And I was worried about that, and I was right to be worried about that, and that's been a big part of it. And with missed threes comes leaks and fast breaks for the leak outs and fast break for the Celtics, which they've done and done a good job of. But I mean, look, it just they've just been the better team. I really have nothing to say, right? I mean, if you watch the games or what have you, there's again, some of this might sound like excuses or copium from my part. Maybe it is a little bit, but there's no excuses with 3-0 is 3-0, right? So kudos to Boston. They've been the better team, hands down, up to this point. No doubt about that, right? Kyrie's pretty obvious, right? He's not scared of the moment, but I think he got in his head a little bit games 1 and 2. I think he wanted to hit shots to shut the crowd up instead of hitting shots because those were the right shots to take, or taking shots because his team needed to take that shot in that moment. He wanted to hit shots because to shut the crowd up. And while I respect the cojones, I respect the aggressiveness and the thought process of wanting to shut up the home crowd while you're on the road. And had some of those shots go down, we're might be looking at a different series here. I thought, unfortunately, right, he has let his ego, I don't mean to say it like that because it sounds negative, but a little bit of that pride and I understand the gamesmanship, and I love the gamesmanship, and that's what I think he was thinking if I had to put money on it. He wanted to hit some shots and shut the crowd up and take them out. I think he felt that burden, which might be good or bad depending on how you look at it. I think he thought, look, they're going to be paying attention to me and Luka somewhat, but they're going to be focused on me. And I, as an individual player, have a great opportunity here to leave some massive fingerprints on the game and have a big influence on the game and be able to take an entire crowd out of it if I come out and do my thing, right? And I understand the thinking. I respect the gamesmanship, and I respect having that dog in you to want to do that, right? In Boston on the road. I just didn't think that was the time to do it. And I thought his pride, however you want to, I don't mean to say that in a negative way. I just thought he let that wanting to take on the crowd, he let that get into his head a little bit, right? Again, I get it. I love it, right? If that's what he was thinking, I get it. I love that attitude. I almost say, fuck it, let him fly. Let's see if we can do it, right? There's that part of me that wants to say, fine. But the stakes are too high to think like that, I think, in this moment. So that's what I'll say about Kyrie. And again, one of the things I was right about was Kyrie cannot be getting stupid fouls 35 feet away from the basket. And I don't know why he does that, right? Like, he does that a lot where I don't know if he's trying to send a message to the refs or he maybe thinks he just has a foul to give or something like that. So he's like, I'll take a risk. But man, he picks up some. And again, I know Luka last night, right? Talk about stupid fouls, but in terms of being 35 feet away from the basket, he really commits some dumb hand check fouls, right? But that's Kyrie, right? So let's get to Luka. So this kind of gets me why I wanted to make this video, and is like the motivation and the main point of this video. Obviously, I've been on the interwebs, and Luka's getting a lot of hate, and some of it fair, some of it I think is way overblown, and it's kind of this whole knee-jerk, in the now reaction to things. So I want to say this, and then we'll get to Luka. I have always hated this kind of is like a man in the arena mentality, for those of you who know that. Essentially is, if you're not in the arena battling, shut the fuck up, right? Like, if you're not going to get your ass in here and put some skin in the game, you're your insult or your points or your thinking, your critique is essentially fucking pointless, right? Shut the fuck up, right? I know I'm being hyperbolic, right? And I'm being over the top, but that's what the man in the arena is, right? If you're not willing to come in here and put on the armor and pick up the sword, then you can shut up. If you're not gonna come out here and shoot these 3-pointers with a guy in your face and a crowd yelling at you just 15 feet away from you, then shut up, right? Like, and what I mean to say by that is there's always this thing with the losing team in the finals. It's like the end of the world, and it's like this. They either have to blow up the roster, or if a guy has a bad finals or something like that, like it's just this nail in the coffin of their career, and they're just done, right? And it's always been like that. And by the way, this is in defense of even a guy like Tatum when he lost, or Dirk in 2006. Everyone always does this where it's just like, um, they're. Let me put it like this. Besides his rookie year, right? Luka has been All NBA first team. Whether you think he was wholly, should have been awarded those, or even if he was second NBA, right? He is a first team All NBA caliber player. Uh, he has been to 2 conference finals, 1 finals. He has finished top 5 in the MVP voting minus his rookie year. Was rookie of the year, all first team all rookie, right? He's essentially had a Hall of Fame career already by the age of 25, essentially, right? Statistically off the charts, correct. His trajectory is essentially to the moon, right? He'll be among the stars, right? For what he is right now. And because of like this series, if you remember, they did this in the Phoenix series, right? After he got exposed and everyone thought Luka was done. And, now here he is in the finals, right? But again, zoom out, right? It's like this act that despite all of that Luka's done, this series, when he comes back to the NBA next year, he won't even be top 30, right? Or every team from here on out now is just going to headhunt him every game from here on out, and it's over for him. He's not even worthy of like a roster spot or something like that. Or it's this thought that the critique sometimes becomes, well, I guess he'll never be Michael Jordan or LeBron James, right? Like, if you think these are good talking points or rebuttals, or if you really think you're saying something original, I just don't get it. I don't understand, like, who he won't be among, a top 10 or 15 player, because he lost in this finals, right? Like, you're not really saying anything that's far out. The standards to be a top 10 or 15 player are astronomical, right? So odds are he won't get there, right? It's like the guy who picks the odds-on favorite. It's like who's going to win the championship in 2017. I like those Warriors. I don't know about you, but I think they're a pretty good team. I think they got a shot, like I just don't understand these people who say things like this, and it's like, aha, told you so kind of thing. And it's like, you essentially just told me the sky's blue. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't really say anything. And so this whole thing, like with Luka, right? It's that it maybe if I be somewhere in the middle, right? People think that, I mean, what is the gotcha here, right? That Luka isn't the best player in the league. I mean, he hasn't won an MVP. I think people pretty much put him in the top 5 or 10, right? At least, I would say. Is he the best player in the league? I mean, up for debate. I don't think there's ever been some kind of consensus that Luka's the best player in the league. Or that is the argument that Luka will never lead his team to a ring or something, I guess, because although he wasn't exposed in any of the other playoff series to the degree of losing, right? Even in the Phoenix series, they ended up winning. If you remember, they tried to headhunt Luka literally all game the next game, and they lost, right? So, look, is Luka having a bad series? Absolutely, right? Absolutely, 100%. I'm not going to say I'm embarrassed, right? Because, again, it's just basketball. It's not like I go to work and I'm, like, ashamed to be a Mavericks fan, or you see how Luka acted last night? You should feel bad about yourself or something like that. It's not anything like that, right? So, like, but I am seeing him play or the way he's kind of been whining and stuff, it is a little shameful, right? It is a little embarrassing as a Mavs fan. Um, and look, he's 25. Again, they said the same thing when he lost to the Warriors. He'll never be in shape enough to get to the finals. And I guess now it's, well, he'll never be good enough to actually win a ring, right? Like, this whole thing about wanting to, like, close a chapter because a season has ended on close a chapter on a player because a season has ended and they didn't win a ring that year. It just, I guess to me, it makes no sense, right? 2011 Dirk, if he doesn't win, is as his window closed. Okay, that's a bit of a different story, maybe, probably, right? If he doesn't win that year, and obviously, yes, his window had closed, but and that's why it's such a great championship, by the way. But this thought that like Luka's done, right? Like if he ever gets back to this spot again, that he'll just be totally 100% exposed again, and it's just he'll never be able to win a ring. Essentially, is what they're saying, right? He has been so exposed on defense. He is so bad at defense that he could never be a part of a team that wins a ring, right? Like because he will just get exposed, right? And again, they said the same thing about Dirk. Curry's not that good at defense either, right? Like there is just this. I understand it's just what we do in today's age, right? It's just the immediate gratification, the impulse control, the got to put it out, whether it's right or wrong. Got to have the hot take. Got to get the clicks, right? Whatever it is, right? So I get it to a degree, but this whole notion that, I mean, again, they said the same thing about Tatum, right? And I just never understand it, right? It is both. It can be both simultaneously true that Luka got somewhat exposed this series, and that he can still win a ring, right? Like both those things can be true, and that he's still a top 10 player in the league, right? Uh, that's the other thing. Now that drives me nuts. I just want to get that off my chest. This whole micro view on the losing team in the finals, right? It's the end of the world. The sky is falling, right? Literally, whenever the team in the finals doesn't win. And it goes back to the manning in the arena, right? They're the last two teams fucking playing, right? Like, obviously, something they're doing is right. Or Luka is obviously, Luka got them here, right? So this is what I mean, where there's all this data and history with Luka and what he's achieved and done and overcame. And they said these exact same things about him before, and all that is just thrown out the window for these 4 to 7 games in the finals this year, right? It's just makes no sense. Is it disappointing? Absolutely. Is Luka deserving of the critique? Absolutely. Does he deserve most of the criticism? Absolutely. Right? That is all true. There's a difference between that and then like this, the sky is falling, he's garbage. He's been exposed to such a degree that he'll never win a ring on a team or something, or as a starting player or something. Like there's a difference between those two things, right? Give it to Luka, right? 100%, like he deserves the critiquing that he's getting. 100%. I have no problem with that, right? That I understand the lights. I understand the game and the high stakes that we're in right now, right? It just is what it is. But this one thing I've always hated is just the finals team. If you're on a finals team that loses, and you're the best player, right? Like literally the world is over if you don't win that year, your first time, right? Just kind of silly. And at 25, right? If he was 33, I would say, okay, like that sucks. We might not get another one before he's retired. All right, let's focus on Luka now. I've given my little bit of defense of Luka in the last point, and look, Luka is banged up, 100%. I've watched almost every game of Luka's. He is not the same player right now as he has been earlier this year, right, or in the past. Just from a quickness standpoint, again, he's not an athletic guy, but even just from a first step, changing directions, that kind of thing, right? He's just not, right? So there's that, but again, there's no excuses, right? So again, I guess for me, like I know Luca complains to the refs, right? It's everyone's biggest pet peeve of his. It is the one thing that everyone dislikes about him the most, easily, 100%. Now, from that point that I've been thinking about, right, from again, as we just admitted, kind of the finals team, the losing team or losing best player on a finals team, kind of gets this sky is falling, it's over, pack it up and give up kind of narrative that builds around them from the moment they begin to lose in the finals. That's going to go in tandem with kind of Luca, right? I gotta say, it does feel like a lot of people are getting their shots in on Luca. Like people love to hate Luca, which is fine, right? He asked for a lot of it, right? But man, people do seem to love to get their licks in on Luca right now and kicking him while he's down. And again, this goes with the whole losing finals team thing, right? And I just don't understand this guy, Scap Attack or whatever. He's got a good channel. I watch a lot of his videos, but even he had a video. He came out and he was saying Luca was exposed, and he does like he does this really bad Jim Rome impression, right? Where he's talking about ass. You know what I mean? If you ever seen Jim Rome, but uh, anyways, like this whole thing about how it's like this narrative of it's over for Luca, right? Like, well, Luca will never be MJ. Luca will never be the best player in the league. Luca, he could never be on a starting five for a championship team because he has just been so exposed in these 4 to 7 games in the finals this year that, he's going to be bottom 30 next year, right? And, you know, it's just hard to fathom, right? Because you look at Tatum, it's like the exact same thing. You look at Dirk, the exact same thing. There are very few people in this world who just get to a finals, win, and keep winning, right? Very few people, right? You have your Warriors, and even the Spurs lost along the way. The Warriors lost one along the way. Bird lost a few. Magic lost. Like everyone loses a final, and I guess more specifically, we can focus on like your first finals that you lose, right? A Dirk, a Tatum, right? I guess that's why it's so crazy to me is you literally look on the other side, and if your argument, like they did the same thing to Tatum in a way, and I guess this is why it just never makes sense to me that because you have a bad 4 to 7 games in the final, whatever that thing or two was that you were bad at, this now becomes the reason why you'll never win, or why like it's such a weakness that you've been compromised and everything you've done up to that point is essentially like has a asterisk by it now, right? Or something like that. It's how it comes off, right? So with this Luca thing, look, Luca is a little banged up, yes, right? The Mavericks play a defense in which they funnel to the big guys a lot, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying. But look, Luka's been bad on the defensive end, and I guess people bring up the stat, the most blown by games or playoff series or whatever it was, and Luka's leading in 3 of the top of them or something. And I don't know, like when you do something, when you pull out a stat like that, right? Uh, he's an average subpar defender, right? On the wing, right? He's gonna get passed up a lot. Not the end of the world, right? I know it's not good, but to like look at that, and there are so many people I've seen looking at this stat, and like getting a bullhorn and being like, "Have you seen this? Like, this is. Do you get it now? Why Luka is garbage, right? Do you get it now? Why Luka is not Michael Jordan? Look. In 3 playoff series, he's a top guy blown by for the top. It's like, okay, all right, dude. Like the whole Luka thing, and like, look, the complaint of the ref sucks. His attitude has been atrocious. And I guess what's even funnier to me is like his off-ball defense is what's really been bad, right? Jaylen Brown just cutting in from behind him for a layup or offensive rebound or even a defensive rebound, depending. Uh, but for getting a second chance opportunity or a point, or a guy just the blow by thing, like defenses can accommodate for that. We can make a strategy around that, right? but it's the getting back on defense, complaining to the refs, just not being um, anywhere aware of where his man is, right? At times, just getting totally lost, right? It's really the off ball stuff and the non on ball play and defense that is actually bad, right? That's what I find funny is like if you really want to critique him, right? Like a somewhat injured Luka getting blown by on the perimeter, right? Like I've seen a lot of that. I don't know if you guys know this, but I watch a lot of Mavericks games, and that happens a lot, right? So like that is like it's just weird that they take this angle. I'm not saying it's not valid, right? I'm just saying the fact that they're like, look at this stat, Luka's garbage. Like he's never gonna win a ring, or like this proves that, he's not the best player, right? And it's like you got whoever you're arguing against, right? And so, anyways, that's just my thoughts on the Mavs and Luka and all that. So, look, I was wrong about Jason Kidd in terms of the season, but the reason why I said I reserve my critiques of him to be correct, or I will stand by them, is that look, in an overarching game, long enough time span, Kidd has proved me wrong. His overarching styles and thought process or whatever they're doing, their matchup selection is winning. So I can't say anything. But right now we're only talking about a window of 4 to 7 games, one last series. There is nothing after this, right? And I think Kidd is getting exposed a little bit too here that he doesn't really have a good game plan. He doesn't seem to have an answer. And I think he's getting desperate throwing out different lineups, which is something I noticed about Jason Kidd is one of his tricks or whatever is that he tries to find a hot hand or a guy who's going to contribute like a sort of lightning in a bottle in a game instead of having a solid formula or a solid approach or strategy or certain things you're looking to exploit or attack or weaknesses you're trying to hide. He just seems to be hoping a guy or two gets hot, right? He's all about matchups and lineups a lot more than X's and O's. And I think on the X's and O's part, he's getting exposed. He's totally seems like he's stuck in mud right now, trying to come up with something for his players, right? So again, he's done great this year, probably worthy of the extension, but in this particular situation, I think Jason Kidd's largely getting out coached as well. So there's that. But what I would do, right? What are we going to do in game 4? I would run a 2-3 or 3-2 zone. Luka somewhere is on the weak side zone, and he just has a space to guard, right? Put the ego and the pride aside and just put Luka on a wing or in a corner or on the weak side block or something and just tell him to stay there. And they can't attack that, right? You cannot attack, in my opinion, a player who's just responsible for a space. You just guard the 3-point line of your area, get box out, crash the boards, and that's it on defense. That's it. That is it. Forget, I leave it to Jason Kidd to figure out what to do with the other 4. And then, again, on offense, the Mavs just need to get it and go. It looks like Kyrie and Luka are trying to make an extra thought, an extra play. They're making an extra unnecessary move, right? And I think the reason our offense is struggling a little bit is Luka and Kyrie are getting into the lane and trying to make an extra move. That gives time for the defense to react and collapse. And it's hard for the other offensive guys to time with you or get in a rhythm or time the alley-oop or make the right cut at the right time, right? Or even just know what to do if you're just going to go rogue like that, right? Luka and Kyrie seems to be overthinking it. Luka seems to be trying to make that extra move because I just think the oomph at the end, the spring at the end, the little finishing ability he had at the end of a play towards the basket with fresher legs, right? It's just not there. And I think he's trying to get the defense to commit to him or someone else make a play, right? Instead of looking to just go to the hole and finish. And whatever he needs to do, floater, pull up, whatever that is, once he gets by his guy, you have to decide what to do. There's no second guessing or second move. It's either get by your guy and you're looking for the floater, a finish, or you're just going to get by your guy and pull up, right? Or what have you. But no more hesitation once you get past your guy or you start driving. Just go. Just go, and that's it. That's the big 2 adjustments I would make. So we'll see what happens. It's tough, obviously, a lot of pain, but you have to understand from a '90s Mavericks perspective, fan, this is all gravy, man. Like after Dirk's 2011 win, we could not win another one, and I'd still be happy, right? So zoom out, right? Relax, as Aaron Rodgers said. We're doing good. I think we're a year or two ahead of schedule. Nico Harrison's got this ship going in the right direction. All of our guys are coming back. Essentially, we'll see what happens with Derek Jones. But yeah, that's my thoughts, and we'll see what happens going forward. So I'll make a video probably once the series is over, or maybe if things get crazy, we'll see what happens. So I'll see you guys on the next one.